Basic statements in the C language. The basic statements in C are very similar to those in Java, or rather the basic statements of Java have been derived from C. Some statements have been made easier to use in Java as part of making the language safer and better suited to building larger programs. C is a language without any object-oriented features, although C++ introduces them. We will restrict ourselves to a discussion of the C99 standard only, since this is the one that is most widely supported by compilers. C is a language that allows many shortcuts, exceptions, and deep constructs that are rarely used in constructing large programs or by beginners because of their complexity. They were likely not presented or used in the programming courses that you took to prepare for this class. These are referred to in this presentation as dirty little secrets, or DLS for short. Many of these dirty little secrets are not recommended for use as they make programs harder to understand. Reference book. The standard description of the C programming language is the book by Kernighan and Ritchie. This book is often referred to simply as K and R. Each of the slides in this presentation has been annotated with the page number in K and R, where further information or an alternative explanation can be found. Having the book to hand when building C programs is very helpful. Almost every professional C programmer has a copy either on their desk or on a handy bookshelf. Comments. Comments can be written in exactly the same way in Java and C. A comment may be opened with a slash followed by an asterisk and closed with the opposite, an asterisk followed by a slash. This form of comment may include several lines. A convention is that such lines are preceded with a space and an asterisk. Some development systems, including Emacs, allow such comments to be quickly formatted. You should note that such comments do not nest. An opening of a comment is ignored, but a closing is taken as the closing of the whole comment. The other form of comment is a double slash. This form of comment is not compatible with the ANSI definition, but was introduced by C99. This form of comment is not explicitly closed, but ends at the end of the line. This form is useful for commenting out areas of code during error discovery and correction, and to comment declarations of variables. Literals. The most basic elements of any programming language are constants. We call these literals. The syntax for these is the same as in Java. A number is represented in ordinary decimal format. A character is represented by the character surrounded by the single quotation mark. A string is represented by the sequence of letters between the double quotation marks. Numerals in other bases can be represented in the same form as in Java, although they are rarely used. The most common non-decimal base is hexadecimal, as it represents bit strings most conveniently. To use this form of literal, we precede the value with a 0 and an X. Numerals can also be represented in octal by preceding them with a 0. Octal is another base that can be conveniently converted to and from bit strings. You should take care not to precede a numerical value with a 0 if you do not mean it to be interpreted in octal. No format is supported to write the number directly in binary notation. Variable declarations. Variables can be declared in the same way as in Java. That is, we first declare the type of the variable and then provide the name of the variable being declared or created. We may declare more than one variable at a time by separating the names with commas. Unlike Java, variables must be declared textually before they are used. Although it is possible to declare variables after other statements, this is not good practice. Initially, we only need concern ourselves with 3 data types in C: int, which represents countable numbers, float, which represents measurable numbers, and char, which represents characters. There are several more types, but to understand those, we must better understand the architecture, or hardware, of computers. These data types work very much as they do in Java. Unlike in Java, there is no automatic initialization of variables, nor will a compiler check that you have initialized a variable, and no warnings will be given. Expressions. All the normal operators that we are used to in Java are available in C. In addition to the ones we are used to using, there are several that exist in Java but are rarely used. In C, however, these operations are much more common. These need a deeper knowledge of computer architecture. The precedence of the normal arithmetic expression is as one would expect in normal arithmetic. The precedence of logical and bitwise operators is as one would expect regarding not as negation, and as multiply, and or as addition. There is a defined precedence for the other operators, but you should probably make your intentions clear with parentheses. Alternatively, they are completely explained in both K&R and in the language standard. Since C lacks the Boolean type, all logical and relational operators must work with countable numbers. C uses the convention that the value 0 means false, and any other value means true. In practice, this doesn't affect the way in which we program much. We simply have to declare Boolean variables as being int or char. Assignment statement. C and Java both belong to a family of programming languages known as procedural or imperative languages. In languages of this family, the most basic of all statements is the assignment statement. This statement sets a variable to the value given by an expression. Remember that a variable in this class of programming languages will have different values as the program progresses. As with Java, C uses the equal sign to represent assignment. The equal sign should be pronounced as either gets or is assigned in order to emphasize the difference between assignment and the mathematical idea of equality, which is represented by a pair of equal signs in Java and C. Dirty little secret: assignments are expressions. In C, assignments are also expressions, which evaluate to the value that has been assigned. This is most commonly used to initialize several variables to the same value. More generally, C has the concept of a compound expression. By enclosing a sequence of expressions within parentheses and separating them with commas, a sequence of expressions can be evaluated. The value of a compound expression is the value of the last expression, and so this statement is only useful when most of the expressions are being evaluated for their side effects. However, it is also used in for loops, where each of the 3 expressions defining the loop are compound expressions. Functions. Functions are written in the same way as they are in Java. However, there are some important differences. Functions are not written inside a class statement, since C has no concept of classes. There is also no public and private modifier keywords, though there is a way of making a function in some sense private. C requires that functions are declared before they are used. This presents a problem with functions that are mutually recursive, that is, where one function calls another, which in turn calls the first. To allow this situation to be dealt with, the C language allows a function to be declared before it is defined. A function declaration consists only of the information necessary to call the function, that is, the function's name, return type, and parameters. A function may be declared an indefinite number of times, providing the declarations are consistent. It may be defined only once. The upper statement is the syntax for a function declaration, and the lower statement is the syntax for a function definition. It is common for C programmers to declare all the functions in a source code file before any are defined. This is unnecessary and redundant. If you want a function that doesn't return anything, make the return type void, just like in Java. If you want it to take no parameters, put void where the parameter list would go. These are important, but not checked by the compiler, though you might get some warnings. The function definition is the code that we would write in Java that specifies the behavior of the function through a sequence of statements. Dirty little secret: function declarations and parameters. The return type of a function may be omitted. In this case, it is assumed to be of the int type, but the C compiler won't check that a return statement exists. The return type should be set to void if no returned value is expected. Additionally, if there are no explicit parameters and no void keyword to the function, then the compiler will allow the function to be called with parameters that are simply ignored. The main function. The execution of the program starts in a function called main. This is just like the main function in a Java class, except that it is obviously not enclosed in a class, and may be declared without parameters or return type. The meaning of the parameters and return type of the main function are beyond the scope of this presentation. Conclusion. The main statements in the C language are very similar to those in Java. The principal differences are: C has no classes, functions are declared in much the same way as static methods in Java, C lacks a Boolean data type. You are likely to have seen features that are available in Java but have not been presented to you before.